Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Damian and this is Energy Empire, how to play video. In this video, I'm going to explain to you how to set up this game first and then how to play it. There will be a second part as well where I'll discuss strategy, tips and tricks. But for now, let's set up the board. So you can see that we have the main board and player mats. So we will be setting up the game for 2 players. First of all, let's set up the main board. So the resources that we have in this game are money, plastic, steel, science, and oil. And we also have a negative resource in this game, which is pollution. We have regular pollution and nuclear is twice as bad as the regular. We also have oil rigs tokens. They effectively act the same way as the pollution. Then we have 3 different types of buildings corresponding to different areas on the board. So at the beginning of the game, we need to put 1 building on each available slot. Then we have a number of global impact cards, but we only need 3 reds and 3 green. You put them in order, the order matters. So green start first and then we will proceed to the red ones. Then we need to put pollution tokens on the game track. You put 4 tokens with the 2-player games. For any additional player, you need to put 1 more token on each stack. And lastly, we have the achievement cards that for now you just put it in a file of them. So this is how you set up the main board. So now we need to set up our player boards. So first, you put 1 pollution token on the player mat on the top left corner. Then you put 2 achievement cards to each player. And a player needs to decide which achievement cards they want to keep, one of them, and the second one goes in the main pile. Then you shuffle them and reveal 3 that will be available in this game. So once one of these is taken, you just replace it with another one from the stack. Then you decide who is going to be the first player. In our case, green is going first, so second player gets an extra resource, 1 gold. Second, third players, they get extra 1 gold. Then you give 2 cards randomly to each player. These are country cards. So each player secretly decides which country they want to play with. So each country has a starting bonus and some requirements that they will have to fulfill during the game. So decide which country to keep, and the second one is returned. Instead of returning, you are just flipping it over. We'll get to these cards a bit later, but they generally explain you what you can do during your turn. Then you get starting bonus for the country you have selected. So with this player, you will get 1 dice, science, and 2 gold. With the red player, he gets 2 oil, 2 steel, and 2 gold. And the last thing, each player gets tokens of his color. So we are placing these markers on the scoring track and the second one on the United Nations track. Then a player starts with 3 meeples and 2 energy. The rest goes into the stockpile. You can get more during the game, but for now you only start with 3 meeples and 2 energy. Same goes for the second player. And then the game begins. So this was a quick introduction on how to set up this game. And now now I'm going to explain you how to actually play it. The main objective of this game is to get as many victory points as possible. And there are a few ways you can get your victory points. From the buildings, so this star symbol at the top left corner, or from United Nations track, or from the achievements, or from buying the dice cubes. Remember, resources at the end of this game, they don't give you any victory points. And the last place is your mat. So this is your environment, and by keeping it clean, like most of the tiles right now, this tile is covered, so it will not give you a victory point, but other tiles will give you victory points at the end. So these are the sources for victory points, and there are quite lots of them. You will better understand them as I explain the gameplay. So let's have a look at what you can actually do in this game. So during your turn, you can do one of the two actions. This card works as a useful reminder what you can do during each of them. So generally speaking, there can be either work or generate. So during your work phase, that effectively means that you can place one of your meeples somewhere on the main board. So, and the generate phase, that's where you return your meeples. You only place one meeple during your work phase, but when you're doing generate, you return all of them at once. But you still need to spend a turn to do that. So during your work phase, when you are placing a meeple somewhere on the board, on the locations with this symbol. When you place a meeple, let's look at this row first. So when you're placing a meeple somewhere on this row, you will be getting a corresponding benefit. So this one, for example, gives you one science token, and this symbol means that you can pick one of the global impact cards. I mean, to have a look at what is underneath it, we'll get to those cards a bit later. So the next spot lets you pay 3 gold to get an additional meeple. This is a permanent thing. And 1 pollution. Pollution, as you remember, are negative resources. But when you get a pollution through this action or any other action on the board, when you're getting a pollution, you take it from this track, from the left pile. And then you put it somewhere in your environment. You choose where exactly. In some cases, it does prescribe you where you have to put it. Normally, it's when you buy a card, it will tell you in which particular environment you need to put the pollution token. But in this case, you can choose. This step allows you to pay one of the science tokens that you have to make 2 cleanup actions. So cleanup is to remove one of the tokens permanently from your board. And if you have a nuclear token, you probably will get them later in the game. You need 2 actions to remove it. One to flip it over, and the second to remove it. Then this location gives you 1 steel. This location gives you oil rig. So oil rigs, they work the same way as a regular pollution. They can be cleaned. The only limitation is you have to place them in one of these 4 places with this oil drop. If all of them are covered by either oil rigs or pollutions, it means that you cannot take this action. When you do this action, you'll also get 3 oil barrels. The next one allows you to exchange 1 oil barrel to 2 plastic, 1 science and pollution. This one gives you money, so you have an option either to get 2 gold, or you get 3 gold but then every other player gets 1, or you get 4 gold and every other player gets 2. This one allows you to exchange oil for money. So you are either buying 3 barrels of oil or selling, no more, no less. And the price for oil varies depending on which stage of the game you are in. So in the first 2 rounds, oil cost 1 gold for 3 barrels. At the end, it will be 5 gold for 3 barrels. And the last location is a trading action. So you can exchange any amount of resources in any direction. 2 gold equals 1 plastic, 1 science, 1 steel. Then the top row, that's where you can buy buildings. So if you go to that location, you can pay the price that is depicted on the board itself. So the first building cost 2 gold or 1 science, and the price goes up. 3 gold or 1 science, 4 gold or 2 science. Similarly, 2 gold, 1 steel, 2 gold, 1 plastic. So you can buy any of the building. Let's say you take the cheapest one and you pay the price with gold. Then the buildings slide and you immediately refill. So when you buy a building, the victory points you'll be getting at the end of the game. However, sometimes they give you pollution. So in this case, we have pollution in the forest. So you take 1 token from the game track and put it somewhere in the forest. It doesn't have to be in the last, it can be anywhere in the forest. And then the last location is the dice cube location. So if you go there, you can pay the price and get one of the dice. So plastic and 1 science for a green, 1 steel for blue, but you can only buy 1 blue die in the game. Then you can have black and yellow. We'll get to those dice a little bit later. Just remember that they give you victory points at the end of this game, and they are extremely useful during the game. So these are a number of different actions that you can do during your work phase. We have only covered the first step of the work phase. So as a second step, you can activate one of the buildings that you already have. So let's now make another action. So if red goes, for example, to this location and decides to buy one of the brown buildings. Now that red doesn't have enough gold, he chooses to pay with steel, and he will buy this building. And this building doesn't have any pollution, so we don't take one of the tokens from there. We still refill the buildings. And this was just first action, buying a building. The second action is you can activate any of the buildings that you currently have of the same color. So this is a limitation. If you are placing your meeple on the brown section of the board, it means that you can only activate brown buildings. Even though red has a green building, he cannot activate it in this turn. But for now we have a brown, so let's activate it. In order to activate a building, you need to place one of the tokens. So this symbol, as you can see on the screen, it is requiring you to place either 1 energy or 1 meeple. So since we have 2 energy and 1 meeple left, let's use energy to do that. And once you activated the building, you immediately get the resource that it produces. There are some buildings, this one for example, that has a double symbol, which is joined. It means that this building, if activated, will require to place 2 tokens on it. And another example, you can see there are buildings like this, where the symbols are divided. It means that you still need only 1 token to activate it, but you can do it twice on different terms. So in one of the terms, let's say green bought this building, he can immediately activate it, then red does his action, and then on the other action, green can activate it again and get the same bonus. So that was an example how you can use energy. Another way to use energy is if you want to go somewhere on the board, on the location that is already taken by another player. So now that it's green turns again, green wants to buy another building. And he wants to buy the brown one. So he places one energy in addition to the meeple. And then he can buy a building, and he chooses to play with one steel to get one of the buildings. You can go into the same location as many times as you want. So in theory, red potentially could go there again and pay additional energy, but he will have to pay 2 energy now. Effectively, you need to build a stack which is 1 energy higher than the highest existing stack. So if we will remove these tokens from the board, let's say we have like 3 players or more, so if someone wants to go there, even though we only have 1 stack there, because it already has 2 energy and 1 meeple, the other player will have to put now 3 energy and a meeple to do this action. To activate the buildings, you can use either energy or meeples, but if you are building a stack, you can only use energy. And then the last thing that you can do during your work phase as a second action is activate your nation card. It acts as any regular buildings. So in the case with this player, let's assume he has 1 extra energy. During his turn, when the green bought this building, activated the building, he then can activate his nation card as well. So in this case, he needs to pay resources, 1 science and 2 gold, and he goes up 1 step on United Nations track. At the end of this game, it will give him 4 victory points, and in case if he will become the top player, get to the last position, only 1 player can be there, and any other player can max go to the second highest position. And at the end of this game, the player who is the highest on this track will get extra 3 victory points. So that's all that you can do during your work phase. So now let's assume that red has done something else. Bought a die with 1 steel, and he gets 1 pollution in the forest. So buying a blue die requires you to put pollution in the forest. And this is again green's turn. So green has to do the generate phase now, because green doesn't have any spare meeples left. So what you do during that turn? So if you have 2 unused energy or meeples, you can claim one of the achievements. So each achievement can give you up to 5 victory points. For example, this one will give you 1 victory point for each plastic at the end of the game. But remember that each achievement can give you up to 5 victory points. So if you have like 10 plastic at the end of this game, you will still only get 5 victory points. And you can maximum have 5 achievements. So there is no point in getting more. You can still discard 1 and then replace it with another one. But at the end of this game, you can maximum have 5 achievements and 5 victory points for each achievement. They are pretty useful, and you probably would want to keep some energy unused or meeples so you can get some during the generate phase. So that's the first action. The second one, you return your meeples back and you discard your energy. So energy doesn't get back, you need to earn it every time you perform generate. So the next thing you do is you can roll your dice. That's how you get energy. It can give you from 1, 2 or 3 energy per die. So if you look at this chart, it's a useful hint to show you how much energy you can roll for each die. So the yellow one is the strongest. If you roll 6, it will give you 3 energy. If you roll 2, 3, 4, or 5, it still gives you 3 energy. But in addition to energy, die will also give you some pollution. So when you roll a yellow die, it gives you nuclear pollution. Brown or black will give you regular pollution, and blue or green, they will not give you any pollution at all. So they are weaker, but they are clean. So we rolled yellow die, so we get a nuclear pollution. We still take it from here, flip it to the nuclear side, and put it somewhere on the board. Okay, so that action is done. Now, an important thing. We have emptied one of the stacks over here. It means that we now need to activate one of the global impact cards. So whenever this stack goes empty, you interrupt the game. So even if you're bodybuilding, you're trying to activate something, you have to stop that, activate the card first, and then a player can finish their turn. But for now, before jumping on that card, I would like to show you what happens if you roll multiple die. So I'll take red scenario as an example. If you have oil, you can exchange it for a die as well. So when red is going to generate, he chooses to discard one of the barrels for a brown die, and now red has 2 dice. And whenever you roll multiple die, you combine the energy. So in this case, red gets 4 energy. And then in terms of pollution, doesn't matter how many die you will roll, only 1 die will cause the pollution. So to determine which one, you look at the number. So whatever is the highest number, it will determine which die will cause the pollution. So let's say in this scenario we rolled 3 on the blue and 2 on the brown die. So since 3 is higher, blue is a clean die, it doesn't cause any pollution at all. It means that the red player does not get any pollution. We still need to discard one of the tokens to get the game going. In case if we were to have brown die with a high number, in that case that pollution would go to the player mat. And if it is a tie, in that case, player can choose which die to activate, and obviously you would want to have a clean one. So that's why it's useful to combine clean and dirty dice. And since the brown one is a temporary, after you rolled it, you discard it. So now let's get back to our global impact card. You remember that we rolled a die, we get a pollution that went to the player mat, and now we emptied the stack, so we need to activate one of the cards. So each card has the same structure. At the top, you can see one of the environments. In this case, it's forest. It means that each player gets 1 victory point for each clean forest they have. So green has 5 clean forests, so he gets 5 victory points. And red only has 3 clean forests, so red gets 3 victory points. Next thing, we refresh one of the building types. In this case, it's a yellow type building. So we remove this and introduce paint. And the last thing, you activate the action at the bottom of the card. So each card is unique, just read them. But generally speaking, green cards have positive effect and red cards, they have negative effects. And we will be activating these cards in their order once we reach each of the milestones in the game. So once the last token is removed and the last card is activated, that's when the game ends. Each player will still have 1 additional action. So let's say if red player activated the last card, then green will have 1 more turn and red will have 1 more turn. And then when the game ends. Now, a quick reminder, at the end of the game you will get some victory points. You will already have some, the one that you acquired from these global impact cards. Then you will get victory points for the United Nations track. Who is the highest will get a bonus of extra 3 victory points. Then you will get victory points for each die you have. Then you will get points for all the buildings that you acquired. And lastly, you will get points for the environment. So each clean spot on your environment gives you 1 point. And also, if you have the entire column empty, last 3 columns, they will give you extra 1, 2, or 3 victory points if the entire column is clean. Last thing are the achievements. So you'll open up all the achievements that you have and count your victory points. Please remember, maximum 5 victory points for achievement and maximum 5 achievements per player. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Next video will be explaining the strategy tips and tricks. Like, subscribe, please comment so I know what you like and what is useful. Happy playing!